she hung me upside down to the fan, and she rotated the fan, and that was like for a 5-year-old, 4-year-old guy.
So she actually hung you upside
Hung
down.
me upside down, and it was the biggest trauma that I still remember. When I go back, I had to heal that past, because sometimes she would prevent me from playing marbles. So I did almost every job, Hitesh, which could at least sustain me with my own stability and earn on my own and be financially free at that age. I used to enjoy learning. I was doing these jobs because I enjoyed learning and just these experiences. And people thought, I'm crazy. Like, people would see my CV and say, "What the hell? What have you done? एक field ढंग का नहीं तुम्हारा, एक consistency नहीं है. How many places have you, worked?" I slashed my wrist when I went there, did the Abhishek, and I was returning from there. So on the Godbandar highway, there's one particular turn that comes, which takes a very sharp rightward turn curve. Instant. I was like awake the whole night, and it was raining, and helmet was there. So instead of taking the turn, I went straight, rammed into the barricades, and went into the creek 25 feet down. My helmet cracked. I was completely unconscious. The bike fell on my right leg, and this leg completely broke and kind of came up, and I was in the creek with all those weeds around. Full moon, I can see. My phone went down, and that light I went and saw dimming and going, as if I left my body and went up the swirl, what we call the tunnel. A huge amount of light, and that light was, I think, something that you've never experienced before. But I gave up. Literally, I gave up, because I thought that time has come. Worse to worse, एक चीज अब मुझे पता है कि अब मैं कभी सुसाइड के बारे में सोचूंगा नहीं. Saw my own 9 past lives, got the answers for what I was looking for. Why did I manifest mother like that, or parents?
Oh, wow. Would you mind sharing what happened? Why would you?
See, these are, of course, many past lives that I've seen. So one of the past lives was that I have something that I have to give it back and learn, from my mother, where self-love was one thing, and working with humility was one of my biggest lessons. So that I discovered one of my.
Was she the same person, or?
Yes, about 3 lives I'd seen my same mother,
Okay,
and same father.
Hi, and welcome to Joining Hands. My name is Hitesh Bhatia, and I'm your host. We bring to you stories of transformation, stories of inspiration, stories of pain to victory. Today we have with us in house Rajesh Singh, and we talk about the story of occupation to passion. Hi, Rajesh.
Thank you, Hitesh, for having me with you. And,
Warm welcome.
Thank you. Yes. See, people seldom understand profession different than passion at times, because they have no choice. Hence, occupation is one thing that is occupying me. What am I? What am I doing? And from that occupation, when we find passion, because that's what we keep doing endlessly, that becomes your path. And path, the profession, and profession to purpose is a journey.
Interesting.
Earlier we discovered, the sooner we are on a career track.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and now that you talk about it, we never really look at occupying as occupation. And it's actually so interesting because the words that we use, we never really look at what they really mean or where they come from. So Rajesh, let's begin by understanding who is Rajesh. Where were you born? What's your story?
I'm born and brought up in Mumbai.
Amchi, Mumbai.
Amchi, Mumbai. Parents come from different cultures. They did cross-culture marriage. So right from the beginning, I was a Singh, but my mother is Gujarati.
Oh, wow.
So I used to speak Gujarati, and people used to get fascinated that how come a Singh speaking Gujarati. I was in Gujarati medium rather for the first primary education of my life. Tremendously grew up in a very low self-worth, low self-esteem kind of a background. Very much controlled, abused childhood, big time. Mother used to be very strict, very overprotective. So anything that goes beyond the line, there'd be huge amount of reprimanding or beating. All that would happen. So I grew up in a very scared environment right from the early. But at one point in time, when the teenage hits, then you want to fly and become that classic PAB, to try out everything what parents have stopped you.
PAB would be
passive aggressive behavior.
Okay. Passive aggressive,
popularly known today in the psycho lingo. So I then became that PAB where, I venture out into almost anything that was forbidden. But I wanted to also, because I knew that if my parents fund my journey, as in if they pay me my pocket money, they will control me also.
And this was at around what age?
12 years.
Oh, you knew all of this at 12 years.
12
यार हम
years.
लोग तो चड्डी पहन के मस्ती कर रहे थे 12 की उम्र में.
Because I wanted freedom. Eventually, what we're looking for is freedom. I never wanted to be at home because then it would become very difficult for me to stay, do this, do that, controlling. So I moved out into, educational setup. I started giving tuitions at the age of 15 and to fund my, again, pocket money, etc. So from 15 to 18, by the time you're in your early, first year, second year kind of college, I was recommended by one of my professors, Rajesh, since you do so many jobs, there's one particular job, would you like to do it? I said, okay, what is that job? He said, Rajesh, there is this production house which is making few, shows on Sahara TV and Z TV. Would you become a part of the production team?
Oh,
They need a production controller.
This was at 15.
So my first ever job that I did was of a production controller. I used to do these light setups, camera setups, and props, and art direction. All of that I started learning slowly, gradually. Then that fascinated me. I said, okay, because once the production is done, what do you do? So I said, I'll lose my job. I need to extend my skills. So I became a post-production guy.
But this was all at the age of 15, 17.
15 to 19.
Wow.
This whole span
And
of
school
my life.
उस time पे? College?
Schools were going on because I was not all that academic as
Right,
such.
right.
Slowly, gradually, I was growing because I loved learning. So 18, 19 were the two prime years where I worked for ZTV and Sahara TV.
Those were
Production
those.
houses.
There was no
Those were
Netflix.
yes, there was nothing.
There was no OTT.
So I became a part of the research team where I was actually a part of the AdMat show where we used to do research and make all those jingles and radio programs and spoof. We used to do it like Raju Ban Gaya Doberman, Hajamat Se Hajamat Tak. Those kind of
on
movies would
MTV.
make.
One
Yes.
tight slap and bye.
Those kind of things.
Yes.
So, but this wasn't Z.
But just take a pause here, Rajesh. And so let's talk about, you said abusive childhood.
Yeah.
So if you can just delve a little into what kind of abuse, and because did you think you became an adult too early?
See, when you say overprotection from the mother, she was anxiety driven. So anything that she would do to control anything that is not in her awareness, aggression becomes a natural response, and children become the easier victims at that time. So when I used to be beaten black and blue just to be disciplined, because another cousin of mine went completely off track. So my mother used to protect me. No, I don't want you to get there. I want you to become a bride. They all wanted me to become a doctor. So obviously, because
Mera
those
beta
days, those
doctor
are the only
banega.
three professions. Either you
Doctor,
become a
engi-
CA, doctor, or an engineer, nothing else.
Yeah.
So doctor was the thing. The more they kept telling me doctor, the more again in my head I want to be a creative guy. So I actually went into a whole lot of in Xavier's Institute of Communication, there was an entrance exam which I appeared for, and out of 600 candidates, I was the first 15 to clear up in the post-production editing, non-linear editing those days.
Wow.
I went to my mother. I said, "Will you fund my non-linear editing journey?" That too in XIC, I've got selected. 15,000 was the fees those days. 1992, I'm talking about. She said, "This is nothing I'm going to fund you for. If you want to become a doctor, we can put the entire capital.
घर
Of,
गिरवी
we
रख
can
देंगे.
sell it. Exactly.
वही कौन
घर
सा पता
गिरवी
है, उस
रख
time पे
देंगे, वही
घर गिरवी
रख
रख के तुम्हें
देंगे.
डॉक्टर बनाएंगे.
But then they never funded my non-linear thing. So then again, I kept looking for something where I
So
said,
that
okay,
course didn't happen then.
that didn't happen. That didn't
Wow.
happen. That was one of the biggest setbacks. So what I did then eventually went into science, but then along with that, I was working part-time jobs into media and production, where I used to sleep on sets to learn these techniques. So I learned non-linear editing.
How
and all
old
those.
were you when all of this was happening?
Again, 17, 18, 19. These were the 3 years where I was constantly, because
Right.
then by that time,
So what was Rajesh going through? What was the emotion?
crisis, lost.
Was there anger?
Money was never a problem.
Because you were working.
I was working. I was making money, through different means and ways, where a lot of college, things that you pick up, and slowly, gradually, because to also sublimate that anger, because see, usually when you get that much of beating, you have to vent it out somewhere.
So was the beating like every day?
Almost every
Achha,
day or
every
alternate day. Almost. Until I turned 18, because then one day I told my mother that this is enough is enough.
अब मैं बड़ा हो गया
Ab
हूँ.
bas, then.
Achha, till 18 there was beating.
Yeah.
And you were already on your own. So how was it like? I mean,
Then I became a boxer.
You became a boxer.
Yeah.
Did you want to punch your mother?
I've done amateur boxing for 5 years in college to sublimate that anger again. I thought that maybe in sports I would find a way.
So
So
were you angry with your parents?
anger is
How?
always there. You know, when you're beating up, father was passive. He would not take up a stand. Mother was the one who was, running everything. So at the end of the day, though her positive intention was just to keep me disciplined. And that is the discipline that is helping me. So today, in fact, when I look back, I literally bow down to her for being after the healed perspective now. Obviously, working on myself, but I worked for 20 long years on all the abuse that I'd been throughout my childhood.
Is there any particular worst that you can talk about? Or if you have a
I
memory?
remember when you go to the ISC, I
Right.
went back to my first ever
The IC is what we refer to as inner child. Yeah, it's a childhood part of you.
when I did the inner child healing. My first ever inner child where I was actually beaten, and I have this whole remembering that when you become a passive aggressive child, how do you actually hide it? I went into school, nursery, where I used to eat chalk.
नर्सरी में
नर्सरी में
चार पाँच
स्लेट का
हाँ 4-5 साल
पेन होता है.
हाँ मैं रबर खाता था मेरा कजिन पेपर खाता था लेकिन वो बचपन
तो
में
तो मैंने चौक खाना शुरू किया तो माय मदर यूज्ड टू टेल मी डोंट ईट इट. सो माय मदर यूज्ड टू मेक अ मार्क कि आज इतनी ही पेन यूज होगी, इससे ज्यादा अगर खाई तो मार पड़ेगी टाइप्स. सो मार वाज द अल्टीमेट थिंग. सो व्हेन शी मार्क्ड इट, आई वाज इवन अगेन early creative man. I ate the next bench girls chalk and I went home, and that mark I showed it to her. See, I have not eaten. The mark is still there. She said, open your mouth. And the chalk was there. She hung me upside down to the fan and she rotated the fan. And that was like for a 5-year-old, 4-year-old guy,
so she actually hung you upside
hung
down.
me upside down. And it was the biggest trauma that I still remember when I go back. I had to heal that past because sometimes she would prevent me from playing marbles. So
But ये 5 साल के बच्चे को and your father was not was your
no,
father
he would be mostly outside. So I mean, this was all happening at home. So you don't know. My father was not even aware of that these were the things that were happening because I would never go and tell them, or my mom would not tell him. So this used to happen big time.
so it must have been a crazy scenario right because you're going through so much physical abuse day in and day night out and I can't even I mean really I can't even imagine being hung upside down as a 5-year-old
I
child.
played marbles and my finger is still having a cut on my left hand finger right now. In
So
fact, she
she-
cut it with a knife.
Oh, she cut your finger with a knife.
Yeah, she went to hit me. I put my hand like that and it got cut like that.
And how old was this?
Again, 5 years, around that time.
And
Up
how do
till
you
7-8 years, things were pretty bad.
and how do you show love to a parent? I mean, I'm
No,
sure
today my
no,
mother
I'm
is
talking
my
about that,
best.
at that age.
Yeah.
At that age.
I was scared most of the time. I used to love my mother because then what I did was a coping as we investigate. So I would just go and hug her whenever she's angry. So love actually became my coping. And that lack of love, when you grow up with, then that becomes the void, which is pretty much what I kept filling through my journey. Where, wherever there is little love available, I would completely become pleasing and depend on them and stuff like that.
So how did these incidents start impacting your career? So you moved to boxing because boxing was
my first because I never took it as a career per se,
Right.
but then I was venting out my aggression so that I could be calm in the other areas of my life. Otherwise, I would take pangas wherever I was working. My first after tuitions, I went into banking. Yes, my first job
before production?
Yes, from production. Production, I worked as 1,000 rupee or 2,000
हाँ, उस
rupee
time वो
salary.
बहुत होता
वो
था,
बहुत होता था.
Yes.
Then I went into banking because I used to also work in between जो हमारे summer vacations होते हैं 3 months. So I worked as a clerical guy in the bank. So we had one of our college acquaintances who became like a family. My elder sister is what I used to call her. So her father was a manager of a bank. So she put me through the bank saying clerical हमको चाहिए checks की entry करने के लिए करोगे. मैंने कहा जहाँ पैसा मिलेगा we'll do it. Why not? Because I wanted to be independent. I then became slowly, gradually a part into huge telecom, who was trenching cables for the CDMA mobile phones. So I became a network designer with the GPS tracking and CDMA
ट्यूशन से
tracking.
ट्यूशन से
Completely. I said, no, I did almost every job, Hitesh, which could at least sustain me with my own stability and earn on my own and be financially free at that age. So I started trenching. I used to climb up on the terraces and do the trenching for the CDMA because Tata Telecom and Hughes Telecom had merged. So we were doing CDMA technology networking.
समय
From there,
WPP WLL भी आया था.
yes.
Those were the days.
Yes, slowly, gradually, then I became an event manager because that was the easy career. Organize birthday party, launches,
तो ये साइंस
and
स्टूडेंट
all
के
of that.
बाद साइंस
सब
से
science के बाद, सब कुछ.
Okay.
While I was just studying because I loved science, I was a biotechnology student. I even went into Royal Tours as a tour manager. Again, it was a seasonal job, so I loved traveling. So I said, okay, per day 500 mil raha hai, and you're actually going to all the wildlife parks and sanctuaries and places in India. I traveled almost the whole of India in 7 years. I must have done some 50 tours with them, and I used to get paid. So travel became my passion, and I used to be paid. So वो हो गया. Then banking work I used to do. जब जब जैसे जैसे jobs मिलते थे, I used to do those jobs and discovering still that what is it that is the common theme. I
इसमें
love
इसमें कुछ
traveling.
कुछ कुछ प्रोफेशनली जो हम बोलते हैं डॉक्टर इंजीनियर तो सीए तो आउट हो
वो
गया
तो
था.
out हो गया
So any
completely.
full time job that you stuck to?
No, I was looking for earning at that time because I was still young. मुझे पता था कि जॉब आएगा 20-22 साल की उम्र में जब शादी होने का टाइम आएगा तब तक हमारे को सेट होना है. मैंने कहा ठीक है अभी तो हम 16, 17, 18, 19 पे ही चल रहे थे. तो 19 पे then I started working with some of the other professions that I started venturing out into, became event manager. So event management was one of the biggest hits of my life. From there, I came into corporate events. From
Okay.
there to corporate training, and that is where ECA happened in my life in 2000.
In 2000.
2001, 2002, I started doing my own healing, and then slowly became a healer. In fact, Sunny Satin was then I did IT, ventured out into IT, and that is how I met Dr. Sunny Satin.
So you moved into events, which are like from a biotechnologist profession into events. And events का beauty होता है, there's no real qualification. You
There's
just
no
need to work
qualification
hard.
required. You just need
To
to.
work hard. You have to be there from morning to evening जो events होते
Yeah,
हैं.
and since I'd worked with the Z and art direction was there, so we used to do theme parties where call
Okay.
centers would need Sholay set or they would need something. They would call me, said, okay, Rajesh, ये set बना सकता है कि हमको
हाँ.
theme party करना है.
Okay.
So गब्बर के हाथ और इधर का वो
हाँ.
Mogambo, Karma, those were the movies. So we used to create film sets. The Border was one film that had come very recently. So we created a complete war zone scene and theme for one of the clients. Those were the things which I used to love. So then when I went into corporate events, then I saw these trainers doing a fabulous job just with that. So I said, why not learn some of the modalities? So that is how I started educating myself into NLP, hypnotherapy. That is how my journey started way back in 2002 to 2006. These were the 5-7 years.
But how was it moving job to job to job?
Fun.
Okay, उस टाइम पे तो कोई पैसा भी मिल रहा होगा. तो उस टाइम did you eventually get married at the 22 का था कि?
No, I got married when I was 27. So that was still time. So 2003, 2004 is where I got married.
Okay.
I was 27 that time. So I said, okay, what to look for? I used to enjoy learning. I was doing these jobs because I enjoyed learning and just these experiences. And people thought, I'm crazy. Like people would see my CV and say, what the hell, what have you done? एक फील्ड ढंग का नहीं तुम्हारा, एक कंसिस्टेंसी नहीं है. How many places have you, worked? But I said, and once I was in a bank, interviewer is interviewing me. After 2 questions, I started interviewing him. I said, where do you see me? How much will you pay me? Because I know a lot. Where will you, place me? I'm a hardcore. Then I also was doing credit card sales and banking.
Those
bhi
were the
baaki hai.
days, yes.
So those were the, sales agencies used to hire people. College छोड़ के हम sales पे निकल जाते थे. तो वो भी साथ में चल रहा था. बहुत कुछ मैंने किया. Hitesh.
So ये events में जब आप थे, which you saying technically was the first profession or occupation as you call it.
These were all my occupying, occupation is what I'm a sales guy, I'm a event manager, I'm a network trenching guy, I'm doing something else and I'm giving tuitions and I'm all those kind of things I did. Just was to be occupied.
Were you making enough money as these events?
Those days I used to make enough, about 7,000-8,000 in a month was good enough.
जब शादी होनी होती है,
94 95 की बात है.
हाँ, जब शादी होनी होती है तो
Yes.
ऑफ कोर्स सवाल पूछा जाता है, राइट, कि लड़का क्या, वाज इट अ लव मैरिज और एन अरेंज?
Yes, it was a love marriage.
So
So
then
my
that becomes not too
yes,
much
my
relevant.
partner, my wife already knew what I was doing. She was a
Right.
college girl.
Okay.
She in fact helped me in one of my biggest risks that I ever took in event management. One of the biggest losses that I've incurred in one of the biggest opportunities that I got was for Emphasis. We were doing a call center recruitment in 15 cities. And those days it was 19 lakh contract that when you bag as a 23, 24-year-old guy, you're like a big guy. So that also went into a loss big time. So that was a big betrayal of my life. From there, it completely derailed me. Then I came into IT. I said, no, this is, I think, the booming time. Let me settle. So I was a graphic designer. I was a freelance graphic designer
तो
also.
कहाँ इवेंट्स एंड
हाँ, so events में हमको
डिजाइन तो करना होता है,
करना
sets,
होता है.
yes,
सेट नहीं,
yes.
हमारे जो इवेंट के जो मेन ये होते थे ना आर्टवर्क्स, वो मैं क्रिएट करता था.
Okay, but you had learned graphic design?
जस्ट बाय एक्सपीरियंस.
Okay.
वन ऑफ माई कॉलेज फ्रेंड से, राजेश इधर एक जॉब है, करेगा? टाइम था, मैंने कहा कर लेंगे. ग्राफिक डिजाइनिंग की जॉब है, आता कुछ नहीं था. मैंने बोला सिखाएगा? ही सेट सिखाएगा. सैलरी मैंने कहा कोई बात नहीं, 3,000 दे देना. So they were looking for someone to learn. So
Right.
again, while I was working with the guy, Sahara TV के लिए, that producer had a graphic designing team. So he taught me. And from there I came into .coms because that was again the time where
Early
.coms
2000s. 2000 तो बस्ट हुआ था.
हाँ. So मैं थोड़ा थोड़ा काम करता था, स्कैनिंग करता था. उनका एक ई-कॉमर्स लॉन्च होना था, 2000 बुक स्कैन करने थे, कोई ढूंढ रहे थे. मैंने कहा मैं कर दूंगा, कोई बात नहीं, स्कैनिंग तो आ जाती है और खाली छोटा सा उसको क्रॉप करना है, कलर करेक्शन करना है, कर देंगे. तो इस तरह से मुझे जो भी जॉब मिलती थी तेज मैंने करी until I came into 2004 where वेबसाइट डेवलपमेंट में आई मेट डॉक्टर सनी सैटिन. उनकी वेबसाइट डेवलप होने
How old were you at this point of time?
2004 roughly I would be around 22 23 again 23. हाँ 23 24. तो जब मैंने ये चीज़ उनके साथ में आई जम्प्ड इनटू द कोर्स एंड आई डिडंट हैव मनी टू पे. सो वन ऑफ द कोऑर्डिनेटर शी सेड विल यू डू बार्टर, उनको कुछ चीज़ें प्रिंट करवानी है, तुम कर दोगे? मैंने कहा कर देंगे, सोने पे सुहागा. सो मेरा सारा जो सनी सैटिन वाला हिप्नोथेरेपी, मेरा जो एजुकेशन था विद युवराज एंड डॉक्टर सनी सैटिन, आई डिड एक्चुअली बार्टर टू गेट देयर कोलैटरल्स एंड स्टफ, डिजाइन देयर ब्रोशर्स एंड वेबसाइट्स डन. Against that I bartered for my formal education into hypnotherapy and stuff. That is how in 2003 I was trained by Dr. Sunny Satin. No, 2003 my level 1 happened. 2006 is where I got trained by him. Yes, in July 31st he culminated the batch in the other catering college. That was one of the biggest batches that he did in Mumbai, and after that he went to Delhi, and that is where I think he passed away.
Yes. So if you look back at life today, and let's talk about was there a painful phase in life in your career? Because you were this young boy, this young guy, happy, making money. At 22 you had money, where people are yet studying to become engineers. Doctors के पास पैसा होता नहीं था, engineers के पास पैसा नहीं होता था. So you had money, you had freedom.
Yeah, that was the most important thing. But one of the phases was worst, where I met with a near-death accident. One of the Guru Purnima nights, I was a devotee of this ashram which is there in Ganeshpuri of Nityanand Baba. I used to visit that shrine very often, and I was going through a huge dip in my life. At that time, I was in a breakup phase, जैसे youth का होता है. So that was near very depressed. So usually when you are depressed, you go to some deity, some master, some spiritual, because that's how spirituality comes.
But at that age,
you
were you spiritually always
One
inclined?
of the aunties who my wife introduced me to at that time, where she took me for Reiki, that heal yourself, because trauma already was happening. So then Reiki introduced me to a lot, and through them I got introduced to Nityanand Babaji's
This
shrine.
trauma was breakup trauma.
Yes. Okay. So I said, okay, if she was the one who introduced me to him. I said, okay, let me go and pray and let's see if something reverses. So in the rainy night when I left, late night around 12 o'clock, because that Kakad Aarti used to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I went there, did the Abhishek, and I was returning from there. So on the Godbandar highway, there's one particular turn that comes, which takes a very sharp rightward turn curve. Instant. And I was like awake the whole night, and it was raining, and helmet was there. So instead of taking the turn, I went straight. rammed into the barricades and went into the creek 25 feet down. My helmet cracked. I was completely unconscious. The bike fell on my right leg, and this leg completely broke and, kind of came up. And I was in the creek with all those weeds around. Full moon, I can see. My phone went down, and that light I went and saw dimming and going, as if I left my body and went up the swirl, what you call the tunnel. Huge amount of light, and that light was, I think, something that you've never experienced before. And that near death experience of mine, where as if a voice told me, your time has not come now, please go down, complete your work, you have a lot of work to accomplish. So from there, when I came back to consciousness, I swam across that whole creek with a broken leg, dragged myself up on the highway, where I was completely, with the muck all over my body. People thought I'm a mad person, so nobody stopped their car. Nobody, looked at this whole side.
Did you have long hair back then?
No, no. I was, in fact, not even the beard.
Okay.
Clean shaven. So I sat on one of the milestones across the highway, that those, white stones that are kept. So then one of the Bhajan Mandali tempo or truck spotted me, saying something is wrong with this guy. They picked me up and took me to Bhagwati Hospital, which no more exists in Borivali, where I walked up into the X-ray room with the broken leg. No doctors were there. It's a government setup. So all those things, I wrapped myself up. And I was not living with my parents. I'd left my parents' home by then. In 2003, July 10th, I completed almost 21 years of my leaving my home, and I was not living with my parents. So it was that nightmare, I think, that shook me, where I started valuing life. And in there's some clairs open up that started helping me to help others, where some awakening, that you call it. From there, I went into Vipassana, because broken leg, I had a lot of time. I was a freelancer, used to design stuff and do jobs for basic things, design brochures and stuff, because wohi kaam aap baith ke kar sakte ho. So slowly, gradually, then I came into that, where then I took sessions with Yuvraj.
And this was this was post your learning?
No. This was simultaneously, this was happening. As I said, from 2003, my therapy happened.
And when was this accident?
Accident was in 2005-6.
Okay, so post your learning
Post
therapy.
my learning.
You said 2006 is when you
Yes,
graduated. So this was during that phase.
Just during that phase. So 2002, 2003 is where this was all happening. Accident was in 2003. Then I got married in 2004. Then the hypnotherapy, because obviously two differently conditioned people, when they come together, there are fireworks, any which is. And I was a very aggressive man. So, I was very abusive.
Earlier, yes.
I used to break things, explosive personality, was not at all stable at that time. So all that brunt was, started showing up in my marriage. And I think that was the time when Yuvraj held me tight and said, ground, let's work towards it. He became my mentor. So ever since then, 2003 onwards, he and Atman, they both started working with me. Atman is another blessing in my life. Both of them really held me, saying, no, you have potential. Let's first heal, and then we see. And then when it started healing me, I saw my own 9 past lives, got the answers for what I was looking for. Why did I manifest mother like that, or parents?
Would you mind sharing what happened? Why would you?
See, these are, of course, many past lives that I've seen. So one of the past lives was that I have something that I have to give it back and learn, from my mother, where self-love was one thing and working with humility was one of my biggest lessons. So that I discovered one of my lives.
Was she the same person, or?
Yes. About 3 lives I'd seen my same mother and same father. And then few lives were revolving around my in-laws, because I got married in 2004. So there were few other things.
Karmic. We've heard of karmic wives. We've heard of karmic parents.
And in-laws now. 100%. No, karmic
in-laws.
in-laws also.
Yeah, okay.
Big time. I learned, and I thank them today for who they've been, even in my journey. And a lot of other people who are also helping me out to ground. Because when your Mooladhar, root chakra is not stable, is where you bumped in. Because many people feel stuck today in career. Which way do I go?
Did you also feel that?
Yes, big time. Because I was not clear, how do I spot exactly what is the passion that I'm.
And you've probably been to 20 jobs by then.
So many things. I've still not mentioned a few. I don't want to take up all your time. Trust me. So then when I found out that, okay, one thing is very good, this made me very tough, Hitesh, not give up. And there was only one thing that I was looking for. What else is possible? Like today in access bars, people have actually come up with it, but I practiced it even then when I never knew what access bars was. What else is possible? I would always look at. People used to call me Mr. Fix It. So anytime any problem that they wanted to solve, they would come to me and I would solve it literally. Yuvraj used to call me Karm Yogi. That any problem, anything, we go to Rajesh, we'll do it. So I was also working with Eka as a marketing guy. I also, yes, one more thing, event management since I was doing, so I got picked up by XIC and Wellinkers, and there was one more Vaze college in Mulund. I became event management faculty there.
Oh, the
I was
EMBI
teacher, yeah,
course,
yeah,
event
yes,
management courses
yes.
there.
So I became a event management and event marketing and sponsorship faculty there. So there
at
3 years as a
XIC where
guest
you
faculty.
wanted to study.
I was a faculty
Yeah, it's
for
interesting.
journalism course,
Yeah.
and life took me right there. And then these are the kind of things that came into my life. And event management, I left it because clients stopped paying. They would come up with some problem and they wanted to cut corners, so they would actually not pay the event manager. So I stopped the event management, to then came into corporate events, and then corporate trainer, and then a trainer myself and motivational speaker. That's been the journey.
Professionally, what was your lowest?
This accident phase was the time when I used to even draw or design visiting cards and do jobs for 700 rupees. So that was my lowest.
Because कुछ नहीं,
Because just to sustain, because 700 rupees आता था तो मेरा 5 दिन का खाना हो जाता था.
and you were living alone. So
I was living all alone because I'd left home in 2003,
rent, बॉम्बे में rent तो
2004.
सस्ता होता नहीं है.
I was living with three places, different places I stayed. People who used to help me, I stayed with some friends. There was a film struggler. I stayed with film struggler. Friend of mine who used to work in Charkop. So एक छोटा सा corner मेरे को दिया गया था. Then I worked and stayed with, the sister from college that I said, soul sister I had. So I stayed at her place because her father used to have this little lawyer office. So he said, शाम को पापा आते हैं, पूरा दिन खाली होता है, तुम वहाँ पे रह जाओ, अपना ग्राफिक डिजाइनिंग करो. सो मैं रहता एक जगह पे था, मेरा कंप्यूटर किसी और जगह पे होता था, और जो पब्लिक टॉयलेट्स होते हैं, सुलभ शौचालय, वहाँ पे जाके नहाना धोना एंड देन वापस आके वहीं पे बैठ के काम करना. दैट वाज माय लोएस्ट व्हेन आई लेफ्ट माय होम
कभी सोचा है इस लोएस्ट में कि मतलब ये मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ?
बहुत कुछ था. सुसाइडल भी रहा हूँ. आई स्लैश्ड माय रिस्ट. सुसाइडल, गिविंग अप लाइफ. मैंने नींद की गोलियां खाई हुई हैं. या मार्क है, ऑफ कोर्स. ये देखिए, डीप मार्क है. सो बहुत कुछ उस समय पे तो डिप में ही थे. इनफैक्ट विपसना भी मैं इसीलिए गया था कि चलो कुछ आंसर मिले, बट दैट वाज केओस बिकॉज व्हेन इन अ नेगेटिव आउटलुक, व्हेन यू गो इनवर्ड्स, इट्स वेरी डार्क.
वो एक मुहावरा है ना, डूबते को तिनके का साथ. वो डूबना जरूरी था.
आई हैव सीन the dumps.
Now I'm talking about डूबना, literally, जो when you fell into the creek.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
So when you were lying there in the creek, did you feel that ठीक है, चल खत्म हो गया पेन?
हो गया. In fact, I gave up. Literally, I gave up because I thought that time has come and I'm going, because with a broken leg, bike is on your body, Hitesh. When you look up, Splendor थी तब उन दिनों मेरे पास.
भारी बाइक है.
हाँ, of course.
Any bike which is lying down is difficult.
And in the creek with the weed, you are stuck there. You can't even move. नेक्स्ट डे मॉर्निंग जब उसके बाद में जब बाइक देखी मैंने, मेरा दिमाग काम नहीं करा. जब 4-5 दिन बाद जब बाइक लेने को गए, 7 दिन के बाद पट्टियां वट्टियां हो गई थी. विथ माय ब्रदर आई वेंट देयर. दिस इज वेयर आई फेल एंड इट वाज रेनिंग. इट वाज वर्स्ट. इन दैट आई गिव अप. तभी तो ऊपर गए ना. इनफैक्ट व्हेन आई गिव अप इज वेयर दैट लाइट, आई कांट डिस्क्राइब व्हाट दैट लाइट वाज.
You know, I think everything we describe, we use words. Yeah. When you don't have words, it's just what you feel.
It's just witnessing there. And I stood there just for a few and then came back to the body, is where I got up and with the consciousness coming back to me and said, okay, now what? Then survival instincts kicked in.
I mean, that देखने से उससे बुरा क्या होगा?
अब उससे बुरा क्या होगा? इसीलिए मैं I don't give up. Worst to worst. एक चीज अब मुझे पता है कि अब मैं कभी सुसाइड के बारे में सोचूंगा नहीं. So today we in fact revive. That's now become my profession and passion, that what I've been through now revive everybody.
Right.
So people who are from an abused background, rape victims, people who come from, a lot of these career issues, when they are giving up, suicidal, those are the kind of clients that I see today.
You spoke about being a people pleaser, right?
Yeah.
Because of that. So that incident with that 5-year-old child hanging upside down, and now that you've completed this journey, do you see resonance with what happened there and how your career shaped out?
Life hangs you upside down, isn't it? Metaphorically, if I say, and it rotates you. The whole idea is, how do you unhung come down, ground, stand, and then look for stability is, I think, where I started focusing after when I came back from that near death experience, Hitesh. I've never looked back because there is some divine intervention that helped me to then shape my entire life. Resolve, I must have seen some around 100 odd lives of my own to shed a lot of karmic
Of
baggage
course.
as I grew up
Right.
learning. And that's how I stuck to it, because then it was healing me and I was healing others. So I became a healed healer over a period of time. And today also my healing journey is on. I take sessions even today, as recent as last week with Yuvraj. Whenever he's around, he's one mentor. There's another person who I work with. So healing is on.
Yeah. I think that journey never
That
stops.
journey never stops.
So how long have you been in your last career now?
This has been the longest.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think when I learned from 2006, when I learned, from Dr. Sunny Satin, I became an intern with Eka over a period of time. That time it used to be called CHI. Then
Yes.
after Dr. Sunny Satin's death, it was CHI. So we kept working as like those early interns that you start working. And we were getting healed. So that was one thing that, okay, if I stay with this organization, I'll grow.
So almost 18 years.
Oh, 22 years with you, Raj.
Oh, so from 2004, but 2006 is when you graduated.
Yeah.
So 2006 to 2024 now.
Yes,
So
yes.
almost longest career.
Longest career, yes.
And
it kept on building up.
Of
So I'd
course.
never looked at it. I looked at it from a healing journey. But when I established my own brand, from that about, let's say, 12 years.
But it's in the same profession. It's in the same
Yes,
line of
I
work.
started teaching with Eka again in 2008. I became a teacher.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's in the same profession.
Yes,
It's in the same
yes.
Domain. rather.
Hypnotherapy.
Yes. Same domain of
That-
same domain
yeah,
of
of self-
alternative healing.
Self-help, alternative healing.
Whether
all
you
of
can
that.
call it coaching, therapist, healer, I think they're
Yes.
all just terms. But at the end of the
Motivational
day,
speaker and all of that. I did gamut of things. I even became a firewalk instructor and glass walk, like breakthrough modalities. So I even did that for the longest period, even with corporates. And like Yuvraj, I remember one thing. Yuvraj asked me when we do live script, how much do you see yourself earning in a month? My answer that time was 1 lakh. And because that's the ceiling. Like sometimes when people who sit our audiences also would think that if I am right now, I would like to ask them that at this spot, if you like to ask yourself how much can you see yourself earning in a month, the figure that comes to you is the figure that is your ceiling. So please break that ceiling with, again, self-work, because that is how I work with my barriers, Hitesh. Is the moment when I asked myself that 1 lakh was just for one entire month. Over a period of time, I started earning 1.5 lakh for just 2 hours piece that I was doing.
of course.
Because motivational seminars and stuff, because then when you do annual sales conferences, you're worth it. There was a time when Priya Kumar and I were paid like in the same league. So that's the kind of beauty that we grew up to. Because again, while coaching, someone asked me, how many days in a year will you work? And my answer as a freelancer, because we don't know freelancing, entrepreneurship, and self-employed statuses. See, these are all the terms that we use, but people need to go little deeper into these understandings of what it is. And then eventually I decided to become an entrepreneur. Today, I have a team of at least about 20 people who work for us. We're expanding. There are online therapists who work for us. So that's the journey. So I am no more. Today, even if I don't work, my survival will be taken care of.
So from traumatized childhood to rebel youth,
Yes.
Passive
Passive-aggressive, I used to call it.
aggressive,
Yes.
and being rebellious and going against everything.
Yeah.
To a career hopper, a career shopper,
yeah,
whatever you want to
yeah,
call it. I don't know if there's a
yeah.
term for that.
Even in India, when how I landed up into UAE also was also one fascinating story. COVID was just beginning and we were, limiting ourselves just in India. Suddenly an opportunity comes where they ask, would you come to teach level 4 to Dubai? One of the biggest brands in the Middle East invites me. Who would say no? I went there. Rest is the history. I landed up also going there. So in fact, it built like a flow, where the path of least resistance when we say, when you said no, being stuck to moving to that flow which life is. Life itself teaches you a lot. Nobody till date has asked me what my certifications are, but my experience speaks for myself. So, in fact, today there are people who only do careers and courses just to gather certificates but not work on themselves. I think they will fail. Even after 20,000 certificates, they will not get to the place where they are meant to be because they won't be able to apply it. So, don't run behind certificates. Run for, usually learning from life. I call myself, if you see my Instagram profile, I call myself student of life.
Wow.
because life can give you biggest certificate,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that certificate is your peace.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest certificates is almost dying, right? Because no university, no college can give you that.
Yeah,
When you've given up on life, you've become suicidal, you've tried to cut your wrist, you're actually manifesting
being a
that.
failure in relationships
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
like, because when you're not doing good professionally, that whole idea of that rage and anger, where even the smallest requirements of the family, when you're not able to meet, you feel like a failure. And I've lived for that longest fear, that fear of failure, where I kept trying anything, because I knew one thing, that that occupation to earn something or the other is your living. So
Mm.
many people who are only living for living or making a living will always struggle. They'll feel stuck.
Yeah.
And don't give up is the only thing,
Yes.
but then acquire and focus on one skill that can actually make you the master of it, and then start applying it with the confidence. Because people have it, they don't have the confidence, they can't apply it. And confidence is again coming from the known. When the moment you go into the unknown, there are so many people who get anxious today. Anxiety is one of the biggest factors that derails you from your career aspirations completely, because then you stick to something where you are making compromises just to stick, because there is a steady salary which is coming for you.
Yeah,
You
and
get
you
that?
get so addicted, right? It's a comfort zone.
Yeah, it's
You
the
know,
drip
it's the drip.
that corporate gives
It's a
you.
drip that comes on the first or 31st of every month, and
Yeah,
you forget
yeah,
passion, you forget
yeah,
things that drive you, and
yeah,
what
yeah,
sticks at the end
yeah.
of each month is just a drip. And you need to occupy yourself. I have so many people who come to us at Joining Hands, um, where they say, can't relax. If I have to do nothing, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's anxiety. You're high on cortisol. You don't know what to do. You compulsively. That's called high functional anxiety that we work with. Another factor. Many people have anxiety that don't even know.
Yes. And then you find solace in Netflix, you find solace in binge shopping, binge eating, and so many other things. But
Yes.
professionally, you've not found, I wouldn't say purpose of life, but something that you really enjoy doing.
Yes.
Purpose of life, I think you discover when you do it
That's
over
a
time.
lot longer journey for you
Yes,
to
yes,
understand. As I said, begins with passion, what you love doing. Like for example, a lot of healers who are in healing, they talk about, oh, I got the negative vibes from my clients after healing a client. I felt drained for 2 hours. Then what kind of healer are you? Number one. So you haven't actually learned healing correctly. Then people say, oh, I got a hit back. Oh, that guy was so negative. What are you doing? At the end of the day, when you can't even do, like I do crazy 10 clients a day, and still not feel tired. If you get drained after 2 clients, which means again you're not in the zone. You've not completed your work. And don't become a healer to earn money, because you see this as as a lucrative profession, where yes, definitely for the next decade, as Sunny Satin spoke about in his book Incredibly Believable, that we are in the corner of the ascension until 2029, and it has already started from 2012, and we are all actually being prepared to be the light workers to help and heal others. So please, first step is on your own work, self work. Please don't hesitate, because people don't want to invest. They want free sessions, swap sessions, as we say. Even in that, people don't value it when they
yes.
get it. So when you constantly work on yourself, as I quote this book, The Fakir, in that Rusbe has spoken about one statement: you're neither the music nor the musician. Your job is to tune your own strings so well so that when he strikes you, the right note comes out.
Wow.
Now, this one thing is, what is it that you tune yourself to do? Just your sessions. Do self work
Yeah.
and
So,
spend. Please spend. Don't look for free sessions. They don't work. Let me tell you that. I've invested even when I didn't have money. I did barter. Barters are good. Swap sessions, I don't know if you truly take some objective and work with it.
yes. Then
Work
it
on
was
your
powerful.
triggers. I think we
Yes.
were just talking about triggers
Yes.
also.
Yes. Very interesting. Do you cry?
Oh, of course. Yes, definitely. I used to a lot earlier. I used to sit once with my broken leg. There's this Sai Baba serial that was happening on the TV, and I was looking for some answers, and that answer came from that TV. I've sat hours in front of TV watching such fancy things. and I've cried endlessly. I was in depression. Those days were worse. That is the dip that I spoke about.
Do you cry now also when you have your sessions within the
Yes.
session? Yes.
Within session, yes.
Yes, of course.
Now, I think recently in Tasso Journey, of course, those were the sessions where you touch upon few of these inner children, because I've done endless work. I don't know how many inner children I must have integrated, because every day literally was a
I'm
trauma.
sure if you said every day you're being
Yeah.
beaten
So
up.
now crying has reduced. It when you now tears of joy come out now.
Yeah, that's the transformation, right? When
Yes.
it's not. I recently heard somewhere where transformation is like the word cool. You can't use it for yourself. Everybody around you has to see the transformation in
Exactly.
you.
You can't claim that I'm enlightened.
Yes, you can't claim I'm a transformed soul. The people around you, your surroundings, the flow of life shows you if the transformation in your life is
So
really
I'm
working.
still work in
Yeah,
progress, I
student
would
of
say.
life, like you rightly
Work
said.
in progress. I
Yes.
can never say anything else, because life, every day I learn so much.
Have you spoken to your mother about
All
those
this.
incidents? Have you?
Oh, in fact, the last retreat that I did, Tamas,
Mhm.
my parents were a part of the
Oh,
retreat. They
nice.
stayed with me. They first time saw that what work I'm doing. And my father had only few words saying, okay, I wanted you to become a doctor. You've become much more than what, I just expected you to be. And I know you're working hard and you will succeed one day. So that was a line where it really, helps me big time.
And the mother.
Mother is, yes. Mother was also very joyful. She cries looking at me now, how many people I'm helping. So
No, but what I'm asking is, when you look at the mother and she knows that when she hung you upside down, I'm sure you've had
all that.
conversations
In
with her.
fact, she sat in my own Antarman and she spoke to all my level 4 participants and she said, this is how I used to beat him. But अगर नहीं बीट किया होता तो आज वो यहाँ पे नहीं होता. So she also
She
claims
wants.
the credit for being the mother that she was, and I literally bow down to her today. I have zero triggers with her.
Yeah.
And things that I've learned. In fact, there were like career and money goes hand in hand. So there were few sessions that I did on money as well. One of the inner children that I worked on was, she had given me few coins to get something from the market, and I was again hopping and overexcited child, energetic child. So I tried hopping over one, some gutter, what we call it,
The open
drainage, the
nalas.
open nalas. And instead of, I miscalculated the distance, and instead of jumping to the other side, I fell in the nala, and I lost all the coins. And I had again this mark that you see on my head. So I reached home, like those neighbors who plucked me out and said, okay, ghar pe le jate hain. So when I went at home, I was again full in the mark.
And
The
blood?
first thing that and the blood, she asked me, paisa kahan hai? Kidhar gira ke aaya? I am not important, but money is as important, was the belief that I built at that time. So I again worked on several past lives with money and all those things. That is, while I was working with the career, these were the milestones again that I achieved about money being more important than me. Like even when I left home, when I left my parents' house, when I was again very young, 25, 26. So I had a room, like we have a mezzanine floor where I used to stay. So my mother said, now since you walked out, don't come back, because now I've rented your room and that is my son earning for me. So even there were so many such thoughts, that I worked with Hitesh, that money is more important than me. And when parents give more importance to money than their own children, their children will get stuck and will be lost, exactly like how I was. And I've worked on all these, where today when I look back, it's not as painful, but yes, those days it was terrible.
So we spoke about the inner child and we spoke about triggers. In triggers, we talk about charge and information. There are incidents that give us charges where we feel angry, emotionally, physically, different emotions come through. And then there is information. When we heal a particular part of our life, the memory remains, but it's no charge to it. It's like looking back of a photo of you with your ex and looking at it and being able to smile versus looking at it and being able feeling the pain that you felt in your breakup or the pain that you felt. When we heal parts of our past, we're able to heal those elements where the incidents of past can be conversations, can be memories, but they're not really triggers that really we react to, but we can respond from a space of being calm. Yeah, so it's a beautiful journey, and I've
In fact,
Loved.
this entire journey of mine, we are writing a book of all EGA facilitators
Oh,
who've
nice.
been through their own journey. So one of the chapters is dedicated to my journey as well when the book comes out.
What's the chapter called? Can you share that?
No, chapter doesn't have a name,
Okay.
but the making of EGA.
If you had to write your own book, what would you call it?
I think it'll be how to be a good student of life.
Nice. It's an interesting name. Mother's love or father's hugs?
Mother's love, even today. Father has not even put his hand on my head saying, happy birthday or done good. The only thing that I told you
Yes,
in the
that
retreat,
incident. Yes.
that incident is very close to me because that was the actual day when he hugged me. So that is very recent
I think our
development.
parents have never learned to physically
The
express.
old
Yes,
generation, I
yes.
think, was also lagging in that. I
Yes.
guess they
Yes.
didn't have that software.
course.
I think today the millennials or the Gen Z or the couples who are from the new age are learning, but they're overdoing it maybe because I don't know if that's the way it could be, but it should be the balance of both. I guess that is how when we say transactional analysis, positively critical, positively nurturing.
So, Rajesh, the hermit, or Rajesh, the celebrity? What resonates more?
I would more be a hermit.
I can see with the beard and
Yeah, because that is also the reason to Plabdi. In COVID, I unlocked this look of mine. It also opened a past life wisdom,
okay.
something that also has a story. So I think
I think we have to get you back for multiple episodes. Rajesh.
maybe I don't know, but I'll stay in touch for sure for whatever good work that you're doing, Hitesh.
you
I
so
think
much.
hats off to the kind of passion with which you've put people together. I think why I'm here is because I believe in every word and everything that you do. I think that's what connected me with you.
Thank you so much. I think I learned
And
something
truly
today.
feeling like that joining hand theme you
Yeah.
are. Truly
Yeah.
you're joining hands.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. And I've had multiple goosebump moments, listening to your story. And every time I do this, I love every moment of it.
Yeah.
I love that every time we hear the word cry, my eyes and your eyes, and every person who's sitting in front of me feels the moistness coming in the eyes because there's resonance to pain.
Yeah.
There's resonance to what we went through. And as we come out victorious, we let it be a memory in our life and we learn from it.
Yeah. We share it.
Yeah, we share it.
The
And we don't
idea is
have
this platform. I
yes.
see it as a sharing platform. I mean, there's no other agenda. You're just
Yeah.
sitting and chatting for past, few minutes or an hour. I think
And
we're all here
the
for
idea
the
is like
sharing.
that, Rajesh, to inspire people who are curious to say, listen, there is a possibility that you can't remain stuck in your career.
Yeah.
You don't do things that occupy you. I learned that today. Like, and I look back at my life, all that I did to occupy myself versus what I do and I enjoy. Money, I think, just flows when you really align yourself. And you don't need to become a therapist or a healer, or it's not for everyone's career path, but it's about finding what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And once you enjoy doing that, everything else just falls into place.
Don't put conditions. When you use the word stuck over and over again, like people when they say I'm stuck in my career, please remember one thing that do not put conditions to your career, whatever that is coming. In fact, the moment you feel stagnated or stuck, look for what else is possible. What else is possible does one good thing is from your logic, it goes into your creative side. So from the left brain to the right brain transitions, when it happens, you will start seeing resources right in your environment and you'll not be stuck anymore.
You change the phrase itself.
The flow, yes.
What else is possible? Fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, for sharing these insights with us. It's
Thank you so
lovely
much
to hear
for
your
having me.
story.
It was wonderful.
Like I said, multiple goosebump moments, listening to those, the 5-year-old child, to the near-death experiences, to how your past lives have changed, your relationship with your mother, with your parents.
Yeah, big time.
And now that you can see your pain, you've walked on the path to inspire others, to help others, being able to impact their lives.
Because what I ran away from after exactly 15 years, COVID put me back in the same home. I was traveling from Bangalore to Mumbai, Bangalore to Lucknow, and 21st of March, I still remember COVID. All the flights were cancelled. There was only one flight that was available, that was to Mumbai. And my mother said, come home.
Oh, so you had to face.
And 45 days of that lockdown, I stayed, re-triggered myself, but with my healed awareness, when I resolved everything, one of the family constellation statements, I leave with you what belongs to you under your responsibility, and the ancestral clearance that I did in those 45 days, being right in front of both of them. And I used to bow down, literally physically touching both their feet. And I kept everything back then. And my UAE opportunity opened up.
Wow.
During COVID.
In family constellation, which is an alternative healing modality, we always say, and we look at your parents and say, I love you. I love you for giving me the gift of life, and I hate you. I hate you for everything that you have done to me. You have to love and hate your parents. You love them because they've given you life, and you hate them for all that they've done, but that doesn't stop that life
Yeah,
has
hate
flowed
is
through
a
them.
strong word. I just said one thing which Bert Hellinger also says: I leave with you
What belongs
what
to you?
belongs to you under your responsibility, because that is the new age format of forgiveness. I think when you forgive your parents, you become bigger than them, which is not the idea, which should not be done, because in the hierarchy of the cascade, you've come after them, so you can't get bigger than them. So if you go down and say, hey, I'm at your feet, I'm giving you what belongs to you under your responsibility, and I know you'll be able to deal with it, I'm freeing myself. And that's where I literally moved on from there. So no complaints, no regrets, no hate, nothing. She, I think, served her contract to her perfection. I think that is why she was there in my
She
life,
had to
because
get
if
you
she
to where
was
you
not
are.
there,
You
I would
wouldn't
not
be.
be sitting where I am in this.
Absolutely.
I would not deserve this conversation with you
Thank
then.
you so much. And I think it's all destined.
It's
What
an honor.
happens?
It's an honor to be with you. I
Thank
think
you so
sharing
much.
my life with everyone also watching the podcast right now. I think I've just surrendered, and I think that is what will take us all forward in life. So, thank you everyone for
Thank you
watching
so much.
this.
There's just one last question.
Yes.
Did you spend the COVID period in the same house that you grew up with?
Yes.
And that
The
fan?
same. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That fan.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajesh.
Yes. Thanks, Hitesh.